If you're an old school player of BattleTech, you might have quite a bit of nostalgia for these models, but I'm a new player and I don't. If you watched my previous video on this, guys, the unboxing, you'll know that I don't love all of them. But they are very old models. Like, this box was released in 1992, and these are the same plastic models that came with the third edition of BattleTech, which was actually the second edition of BattleTech under the name BattleTech, because the first edition was Battle Droids, and Lucasfilm had the name or the word droid trademark, and they couldn't use the name. Interestingly enough, all of these designs are also something that had some issues with trademarks and stuff and copyright, because all 14 of these mechs are the so-called unseen designs. If you don't know what that means, the unseen mechs were licensed from different anime series, and at one point they lost the license and they weren't allowed to use the designs, and eventually they started using the designs again, a little bit of a redesign sort of thing going on there, and they won a lawsuit and now they're allowed to use the designs again. But that's the unseen mechs. All of these are unseen mechs. If you want to read more about it, please go on sarna.net. It's got a great article on the unseen mechs. Anyway, what I want to do in this video is do a tier list of all of these 14 classic models. I want to talk about which ones have stood the test of time, which ones still look alright, which ones don't. Of course, I'm no professional modeler or anything. It's just the ramblings of some dude. So make of this video and these opinions what you will. If you're an old school sort of person, please shout at me in the comments how much you love the old designs. It's all good. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's start with the light mechs, and the first one is the Locust, which has its name on the wrong hex side for some reason. I have to say I love a Locust. The Catalyst Game Labs model is fantastic. It looks like a design of mech that's sort of like always existed, but I can't say I love this one. And it's all about the weird legs. I think the legs are too thin and look just... The legs just look like they could snap at any moment, so I don't love that. Also, the laser here is very, very thin, and also the machine guns here are, I don't know if you can make it out, but if you think there's any like sort of detail on the machine guns, there's not. It's just molding issues. It's incredibly plain. Like, the machine guns are barely recognizable as such. I didn't actually know what they were for when I was opening the sprue or cleaning up, and then I figured, oh yeah, it does have machine guns. So I can't say I love the design on this guy. It has a bit of a War of the World sort of vibe to it, maybe, with its spindly legs, but I do not like this model. I'm gonna put this guy in D tier. Next up in our light mech category, we got the Stinger, and I feel like the Stinger is one of the many models here that just look like an anime character to me, like an anime robot, which it is, because it's from Macross or Robotech, so it is an anime robot, but it just doesn't look like anything else. It's just a guy in a suit, like a robot suit, so I can't say I love this design overly much, but there is something that I do find highly amusing. It appears to have a huge cock, so that's pretty funny. Of course, this is a design that was originally supposed to be able to turn into a jet fighter or something, so that is the cockpit. So maybe it's fitting that it has a cockpit. Anyway, I find it kind of funny, even though I don't love the model. I'm gonna put it in C tier for cockpit. And our final light mech, it is the Wasp, which I believe is the same design, or it's based on the same design as the Stinger, but I just feel like this model has a bit more character to it. I like the head, with sort of a meaner looking helmet and antennae thingies, and I just feel like the model has a lot more detail going on with those panels and stuff. I do quite like this model. I think it's the best, easily the best out of the light ones. So I'm gonna put this guy in A tier. It is the first of the medium mechs in this box, and it's the Phoenix Hawk. I have to say, I do not like this model at all. It just reminds me of something like Transformers too much. Maybe, or maybe just an anime mecha robot. I don't think this is a good model. The pose it's too stiff, and it looks like, I don't know, it's like a sort of a bouncer looking pose, even though this is supposed to be a very dynamic and speedy mech, but it's just kind of standing there with a crappy looking gun in its hand. I do not like this model, but it's not the worst one out there. I'm gonna put this guy in D tier. Our next model is the Shadowhawk, the first of the very similar looking mechs here from Dagram, the anime. I feel like this guy and the Griffin, which you'll see in a bit, are sort of different from the other ones. Mainly because they are very similar, but also they have a little bit more volume to their bodies. They are a little bit more beefy than the other ones. I do quite like this model. It's got a little bit of character. Maybe the pose is a bit stiff. It looks like it's waiting to get to the toilet or something, but otherwise I do like it, and I do like the backpack, which has maybe the most detail out of anything in this entire box set. I do like it. I do dig this Shadowhawk model. I'm gonna put the Shadowhawk in firmly in C tier. And we've got the Griffin, very, very similar to the Shadowhawk, just with a different head and different armament. I didn't actually see it had an actual gun like the PPC the Griffin carries, because it goes along its leg and torso there. But like the Shadowhawk, it's a pretty okay model. I'm gonna put this guy in C tier as well. And we're on to our final medium mech design here. It's the Wolverine, with a bit of a weird placement for a name there on the hex side. But I do think this is a great design. Maybe it's just that I've known the current design for a while, and this resembles it quite a bit. It still has the pipe thingies here and the SRM and just basically the same model, but it's a very nice model. I think the head on my Wolverine here is sort of fucked up. I've seen some pictures of the metal models which do look quite a bit better, but oh well, that happens, and these are very old plastics. I do enjoy this model, and I'm gonna put this guy in B tier. Let's get into our heavy mechs here. It's the Rifleman. I think it's very stiff, and unless it's painted, which this obviously isn't, it's kind of hard to tell that the cockpit is actually the middle part here and not like here. It's quite stiff. You could angle those arms a little bit differently if you wanted to, but I just felt like this was the best in terms of like not looking like the absolute worst, and also not getting snapped off when transporting this guy eventually to somewhere. But I can't say I love this miniature. It's got this weird part here on the back. It's just a very stiff and sort of awkward looking mech. I'm going to put this guy in D tier, unfortunately. It is the venerable Thunderbolt. And I do have to say, I hate this guy. It's the worst mech. It's the worst design out of the bunch. It is so blocky and so awkward. Why is it like swaying to its side? Why does it have those huge, overlong gorilla arms? This design is a mess. And that's a shame, because I really, really love the Thunderbolt as a mech. Like in gameplay, it's one of my favorites, but I just think this design is a total disaster. I'm gonna put this guy in F tier. It's another one of my favorite mechs in the game, and one of my least favorite designs out of this bunch. I think the Crusader here just looks like a generic anime robot or a Transformer robot. Like if you compare it to the new one, it's so much beefier and looks like a devastating war machine, and this just looks like a guy with some armor on. I can't say I love this design. It's just doesn't do anything for me. But it's not the worst. It's not the Thunderbolt, so I'm gonna put this guy in D tier as well. It is the classic Warhammer miniature, and maybe this will tell you about my preferences when it comes to models of these vintage models, but I think this is a great design, and that's evidenced by the fact that it's virtually the exact same as it is nowadays. It's just smaller, but it's pretty much the exact same. I really like the weird little equipment here, and its multiples of lasers here, and the huge PPCs, and there also you can angle them in any way you like. I like to put them a little bit asymmetrical here. It's even moving a little bit, so it's got a bit of a slightly more dynamic feel than many of the other miniatures in this box. I'm going to put the Warhammer in A tier. I think it's a great mech. Up next we have the Archer. Also sort of a basic pose here, but what I do like about this guy is that it at least looks like something else than just a guy, unlike the Crusader, for example, or the Phoenix Hawk. It's got a bit of a character to it. The redesign would be quite fantastic in my opinion. The new model is really nice and looks like a war machine again, a lot like the Crusader, but again, at least this guy has a bit of a different feel to it than just, being some anime robot dude. So I'm gonna put the Archer in C tier. Our second to last mech and our final heavy mech. It is the Marauder, again with a weird placement for its name on the wrong hex side here. And missing an arm, unfortunately. Maybe I'll get a replacement arm for it at some point, but I have to say, I love the Marauder. Again, one of those designs that's pretty much stayed the exact same all over these years, even through the different variants and new models of the Marauder, the clan stuff and everything. And like the major difference when compared to the new model by Catalyst Game Labs is that it's a lot bigger than this one. This is a classic design. Like, again, it's from Macross, but I think people associate this design with BattleTech. It's a very iconic design. I love how the PPCs look. It has a bit of an alien look to it. It's a fantastic, fantastic design. I'm going to put the Marauder in S tier. And it's our final mech and our only assault mech. It is the BattleMaster. I have to say, this is a very solid design. Again, once more evidenced by the fact that the new sculpt is pretty much the same as this, like in most part. It's just a lot bigger and a bit beefier, and in relation to the body, the cockpit isn't quite as huge. But this is just a solid design in my opinion, and I really quite like the scale mail effect here on its torso and legs and arms. It's also walking, which is a nice change from the very stiff looking mechs. And I do like the huge PPC cannon it's carrying. This is a great looking mech. I'm going to put the BattleMaster in B tier. So, there's my tier list of the 14 unseen mechs that came in the 3rd edition of BattleTech, or purchased separately in this mechs box, or maybe even the English language version of this box. What do you think? Am I totally wrong? Did I just dunk on your favorite unseen design? Sound off in the comments. Anyway, that's pretty much the video for this time. Thanks for watching. See you next time.